Welcome to the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio. We've got a fast-paced hour of fishing, hunting, and conservation covering the nation and the Northwest, including 13 extra minutes of local content you'll only hear on Seattle's Sports Radio 950 KJR.
It's Saturday morning, and I'm glad you're here because it's time to talk about the outdoors. At the bottom of the hour, we'll be chatting with Bob Loomis. He's with Mack's Lure, and he's going to be talking about fishing Baker Lake. As of last Sunday, over 4,300 sockeye had been transferred to Baker Lake, and Bob has got some advice for you as to how to catch some of those salmon. You'll want to stick around for the end of the show, too, because we get to talk to Nate Treat again. He is the fishing department manager at the Everett Sportsman's Warehouse, and it's always fun to hear what he's been up to. But first, let's tell you what's hot and what's not right now in the Pacific Northwest. Brought to you by your Puget Sound area Sportsman's Warehouse stores in Everett, Silverdale, Federal Way, and Puyallup, where an early hunt sale is going on through August 4th. We're not talking about just rifles and bows and arrows here. No, we're talking about shooting gear. We're talking about gear you're going to need for deer and elk camp, like sleeping bags and tents. We're talking about smokers. We're talking about electronics like game cams and handheld GPSs and handheld radios so you can communicate with your hunting buddy, and a whole lot more. Check out the flyer, or better still, just go to your local Sportsman's Warehouse store, but do so soon. This sale ends August 4th. We're going to start off in Skagit County with NorthwestFishingReports.com, where poster Reynolds S.J. went after kokanee last Sunday at Kavanaugh Lake and had a good trip with his son, catching a near limit along with some cutthroat trout. He was fishing an Elgin Fishing Gods tooth dodger and spoons under a downrigger about 40 feet deep, and of course, he was tipping those hooks with corn. You can see his entire report and check out a YouTube video as well by going to the latest reports for Lake Kavanaugh at NorthwestFishingReports.com. Checking ocean reports, Marine Area 5 off of CQ is heating up with good Chinook fishing as of last Sunday, as well as some coho and a few pinks thrown into the mix. But overall, anglers are only averaging about a half a salmon each there. Things are better off out in the ocean, where anglers are averaging a salmon apiece out of Nia Bay, La Push, and Westport. But the hot spot, that's been in the ocean off of Ilwaco and Astoria, where anglers are averaging 2 salmon apiece, about 80% of them coho, as of July 14th. Turning to hunting, bear hunting season gets underway statewide on August 1st. And if you get a chance, you'll want to listen to our sister show, Northwestern Outdoors Radio, because outdoors writer and avid bear hunter Troy Rodakowski has got some great advice for you about bagging a bruin in the month of August. And if you can't catch it for some reason, just go to our America Outdoors Radio Facebook page later this week, because we'll have that up as a podcast for you to listen to. Finally, on the conservation front, if you read the Seattle Times, especially the Sunday edition, it's not uncommon to see full-page ads advocating breaching Snake River dams, or maybe seeing columns calling for the closure of all salmon fishing in Puget Sound to save orca whales and salmon. But you almost never see any push to stop the habitat degradation caused by sewage spills into Puget Sound right in the Seattle area where the Seattle Times is located. There was a huge spill in 2017 at King County's West Point sewage treatment plant at Discovery Bay, where 1.5 million gallons of sewage flowed into the Sound. Now, there's an even bigger one caused by a power outage at not only this plant, but at another one in Renton. This time around, 4.5 million gallons of sewage has flowed into the Sound, and you know, that can't be good for any of the fish, shellfish, or wildlife in the area. As for the media, it did get reported on, but what's missing is the accountability piece. Why no heads are rolling? Why no one's being fired? Why are environmental groups not up in arms over this? I don't know. But you know what? I'm shining a light on this, and if you're concerned, you should be contacting your county and state representatives and demand action to make sure this doesn't happen yet again. And with that, you now know what's hot, including I'm a little hot here in the Pacific Northwest.
That's your first local shot of the outdoors. Now let's see what's going on across the nation.
Hot summer nights mean hot morning fishing for sockeye here in the Northwest, and Mack's Lure Company has got what you need to catch a limit with the Double D Dodger and two great sockeye rigs. The Double D Dodger has a unique fast, slow action and can be fished away from the boat without a side planer. The Cha-Cha Sockeye Rig and Double Whammy Sockeye Pro both feature a patented smile blade and two stout red hooks that won't let go of that salmon when it bites. Mack's Lure Company, getting you into the sockeye this summer.
Ready for more local fishing and hunting? You got it. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, right here on Seattle's Sports Radio 950 KJR.
It's time for another Mack's Minute, brought to you every week by Mack's Lure, and it's time to talk about probably the only place you're going to be able to catch sockeye salmon this year, Baker Lake in Northwest Washington. Bob, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, John.
So, Bob, sockeye runs are really tough up the Columbia. We're not going to have a Lake Wenatchee fishery, but Baker Lake is the one place where you can go for sockeye this year. And generally speaking, the latter half of July is a very good time to fish for them. What would you recommend people use if they're fishing there?
You know, fishing sockeye, they're overgrown kokanee. You know, that's what a kokanee is a
landlocked
sockeye.
This is true.
So using large dodgers where you can get a lot of added movement onto the lure that you're fishing works tremendously well. And using the Mack's Lure Smile Blade sockeye squidders is a fantastic tool for catching kokanee.
You know, back in the day, folks would fish just bare red hooks behind a dodger or a flasher. And I see that the Mack's Cha-Cha Sockeye rig has got those red hooks, but it also has the hoochie. It also has the smile blade. Does that really make a difference?
Well, you bet it does. Having the high UV smile blade, high UV beads, and the hoochie itself, you know, and most of the hoochies are high UV or glow. They work tremendously well.
Any colors you recommend for Baker Lake?
Let me think. Pink, pink, and pink.
There you go, folks. Pick yourselves up some pink sockeye rigs from Mack's Lure along with some Double D Dodgers and head on out to Baker Lake. It's going to be your best and probably only chance for sockeye this year in the Pacific Northwest. Bob, thanks as always.
Thanks, John.
Are you an outfitter, sporting goods retailer, boat dealer, or someone else in the outdoors industry? If you are, you know targeted advertising works best, and what would work better than advertising with America Outdoors Radio? Our hour-long show is heard throughout Seattle, Everett, and the East Side every Saturday morning, and your message will be heard there too. Want to find out more? Contact me, John Cruz, through my website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. Join the Habitat Leader and help create wildlife habitat in your community. Go to pheasantsforever.org.
Don't leave yet. We've got one more local shot of fishing and hunting to wrap up the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio.
Before we go, we had to check in with Nate Treat, the fishing department manager at the Sportsman's Warehouse store in Everett. Nate, I understand you were doing a little underwater bow hunting on your days off. Tell our listeners where you were at and how it went.
I was going to shoot at Lake Washington, believe it or not. You can bow hunt on the west side of the mountains. Bow fish, I mean. Right? It's crazy.
It is.
But
how did it go?
It went well. We saw a lot of fish. We were just going in the pads, and it kind of wasn't fair because the fish are just loafing in the heat underneath the lily pads, so they can't really see you. So it was a lot of close-range shots.
So what do you do with these carp that you shoot?
Well, I have some friends that actually eat them. They make curry and soup and stuff. Or, you know, the best part is crab bait because crab is delicious.
Oh, I actually have never heard of using carp for crab bait. Do you have to put any sauce or scent or anything like that, or you just throw the carcass right in there in the crab pot?
I just throw it right in. It has a really oily meat, so it actually kind of, when you put it in the water, it leaves a scent trail, kind of. So it works really well.
Okay, fantastic. You just educated me and probably a bunch of our listeners about a new use for carp. Let's get at least one fishing report out there before we go today.
The Skycomish has a few fish. I've been hearing reports of people catching them up at Reeder. It's very low and clear, though. So they're actually using really tiny stuff, like small nymphing flies, stone flies, something natural underneath a clear float. That seems to be performing better than the 1/8-ounce jigs that most people are using.
Getting back to crabs and carp, have there been any places where people have been hauling out a lot of Dungeness or red rock crab lately?
Yes, there have. I've been hearing that it's getting a little bit slow in some of the usual spots like Hat Island and whatnot. People are having to motor out a little bit further around the island as far as what I've been hearing.
Okay, well, we will leave it at that. But, folks, if you need gear for crabbing or steelhead fishing, the Everett Sportsman's Warehouse is the place to go. And don't forget, the early hunt sale is going on at all of your Puget Sound area Sportsman's Warehouse stores in Everett, Silverdale, Federal Way, and Puyallup. Thanks as always, Nate.
Yes, sir.
That's all for this week, but don't worry. We'll do it all again next Saturday morning from 7 to 8, right here on Seattle's Sports Radio 950 KJR.